Hello and welcome back to another episode of Interjections. We're in the month of August. The season starts in a couple weeks. Hard to believe. I'm your host, Andrew. I've got Jay, Miko, and a special guest, Gautam, helping us out this week. Jay, what's going on?
Yeah, not much. Slowly kind of looking forward to the football season resuming. And after taking a break from, all the football news and transfer news and all that kind of nonsense, I'm slowly getting back into it. So it's ramping up.
Miko, has Finland won any Olympic medals yet?
I wish. No way, and not gonna happen.
Not even a single one? You guys are just Winter Olympic people?
Yeah, more like Winter Olympics, but yeah. To be honest, I haven't followed much, but I know we haven't won anything. That I know, because I would have known if we have won something.
All right, fair enough. Gautam, thanks for joining the podcast. How are you doing, sir?
Not too bad, not too bad.
Well, we're really happy to have you here with us, Gautam. So for those of you listening, Gautam's known as Bluenine on the forum. He's also a bit of a celebrity on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it these days. So I guess before we start off, Gautam, I want to do just an introduction of how you became an Inter fan and maybe your favorite player.
Sure. So I've been an Inter fan for a very, very long time. I think it was first, I started following Inter in 1988, and it was that season with the Scudetto with Trapattoni, which convinced me to, completely become an Inter fan. And then I've been through every form of torture, as you can imagine, for the last 35, 40 years, being an Inter fan through the dark ages. And for the newer Inter fans who think the banter era was bad, oh, let me tell you, that was just a small one. I mean, the 17 years without a trophy was so much worse. So I've been following Inter for a very, very long time, and my favorite all-time player is, no surprises here, Javier Zanetti.
Can't go wrong with that choice, that's for sure. Now, I'm curious, I think you've mentioned in the past, you used to commentate EPL games, or matches in England. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that was like?
Yeah, that was real fun. I mean, I just got the job because I used to have a website, and where I used to, which got very popular in India. And I'm of Indian origin, and ESPN India got in touch with me to see if I want to commentate in Hindi, which is the Indian language. And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? And I went on to commentate for the games, went to each of these stadiums. It was absolutely a brilliant experience, commentating from the stadium, sitting with all the other commentators from other channels, attending press conferences, asking questions. It was just brilliant. So, for a football fan, that is a once in a lifetime opportunity. So it was great while it lasted. So it was Premier League. I would have preferred Serie, but Serie is not that popular in India. So never got that chance. So if I ever get the chance to, commentate Serie, count me in. Any channel, I don't care.
Would you say it was magisterial?
Yeah, pretty much.
Who's the commentator that always says that? The English guy, high-pitched voice, slightly older gentleman. And he uses such overly flowery prose to describe the most basic things.
Yeah, no, he's actually a pretty good commentator. Now, one of my problems is, and this is a real big problem when you are commentating, I'm very, very bad with names. So I can picture faces, and I can picture the face of the commentator you're talking about, but I forgot his name. And so even before the commentating for these games, I had to spend like a couple of hours the previous night going through all the names and pronunciations, because I'm really, really bad at that. So sorry, I'm going to miss a lot of names today.
It's not a problem. This podcast has a good history of me butchering names as well.
It was Ray Hudson. I got his name, Ray Hudson.
Ray Hudson, yeah.
Now, you've mentioned in the past, Gautam, that they I'm not interested in this. The Premier League has superior marketing to Italy. They do a great job promoting the brand worldwide. And you mentioned in the past just some of the things that go into TV broadcasts that they do to make the games more appealing. I think the one example I remember you referencing is calling the league the best in the world, or something to that effect. Can you maybe talk about the differences you've noticed between the way Premier League games are marketed, living in England now versus Italian games?
Oh, I think the difference is really, really huge, and I think this really started in the 90s when Serie was at its top. The best talent used to play in Serie, but what the English did, and they do have an inherent advantage in the sense that the English language is much more common across the world. However, what they did is they focused on getting the best pitches, stadium atmosphere, and also even the way they take. I mean, if you watch, EPL game, you'll see that there are more close-up shots compared to whenever you see Serie A, which is from a further lens. So they really went for the product. They made the product the best first in terms of viewing experience. And we saw. I mean, I used to live in India, and we saw this in India, where in the late 80s, when I started supporting Inter, you would find as many Serie A fans as Premier League fans. In fact, probably there were more Serie A fans. And by the late 90s, I would say Premier League fans were, like 10 to 20 times more than Serie A fans because the way they marketed it. So there's a huge difference with the way they're marketing, and it's not just about calling the league the best. We have to understand the product is better, even though the football in the 90s wasn't. Serie A's football was far superior, but the packaging of the product all around it was far superior and still is. So you have to give it to them. The way they marketed the league across the world, across all the English-speaking nations, was absolutely brilliant. And that's one of the reasons they have such a big advantage in terms of cash flows now, because the viewership numbers across the world of Premier League are far, far ahead of Serie A.
Nico, we've never talked about this with you before, but how does Premier League broadcasting and Serie A broadcasting look for you in Finland? Is it comparable to that experience?
Yeah, it's way more popular than Serie A, and I would say also Spanish league is more popular than Serie A, but that's of course because of Messi and Ronaldo in the past 15 years or something, 15, 20 years. But yeah, EPL is definitely, like we discussed earlier in the some Euros episode when we talked about England, it's way more way more popular here. So in that sense, the EPL comes with it, and of course like Gautam mentioned, the TV product, the production values, they are you could see the difference in the production values of the Serie A broadcasting and EPL broadcasting, and even the Spanish league. There are all these stats and so on going on in the screen, while Serie A has like a bare minimum still. It seems that it hasn't like evolved at all in the past 10 years or something, the TV product of Serie A. But yeah, in Finland it's the same thing, I think.
So we're a little on the younger side as a podcast, Gautam, just in terms of participants. I don't think anyone here was an Inter fan back for the 88, 89 Scudetto you referenced. So as you look at this past season with Inzaghi getting the job done, getting number 20, how does that compare to your other Inter experiences as a fan when you compare it to Mancini's first run, Mourinho, even Conte's Scudetto? How special was this one for you, and where do you rank it in your Inter history?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, there was something about the Scudetto last season which was really special. I mean, I think it was something to do with the team spirit. The way the team came together was absolutely beautiful to watch. So I do rate it over some of the Scudettos that I've seen. But for me, of course, the Mourinho Scudetto, the treble-winning Scudetto will always be the best because we won the treble. I mean, it's not to do with the Scudetto, but with the season overall. I was actually there in Madrid in the Champions League final, which was absolutely brilliant. I think the best day of my life. I mean, I wouldn't let my wife hear that again, but yeah, it was the best day of my life. Nothing compares to that. So that will always be the most special season for me. But if I look at the next one, and this might catch a lot of Inter fans by surprise, but my next favorite Scudetto is the one which Mancini won, the first one. on the pitch, because of what we went through before that. I mean, 17 years without a Scudetto, every season, thinking we are the best team and always failing. I mean, that had left emotional scars. And the way Mancini won and, the way he converted that team into winners was absolutely beautiful. So for me, that is easily the second best Scudetto. Next would be the Trapattoni one, which was, oh man, you should have seen that. I mean, the way we won that Scudetto was against some of the best teams in the world. Was I mean, that's what converted me into an Inter fan. It was just so spectacular. I think after that, I would rate the Inzaghi Scudetto before the other Mancini, Mourinho, or Conte Scudettos. The Inzaghi Scudetto would be fourth, because it's been special in the sense that the way the team came together, the way Inzaghi's style got more and more, the team started breathing and living that style, and it started showing. It was just beautiful. I like the team spirit of this team. I love the way they play. I love the way they celebrate. Everything about this team is magical, and I hope we see that for another season.
How does a certain Lautaro Martinez stack up against other big name number 9s we've had in the past? I'm thinking, I mean, if we go back to just the recent years, you've got Lukaku, Icardi, Milito, and then prior to him, all the mid-2000s guys, Ibrahimovic. Prior to him, who do we have even? My memory's fading me.
Vieri,
of course. Ronaldo, and all these guys. And
Baggio, Zamorano. I mean, again, sorry, if we start going back to the 90s, Lautaro might not have a very good ranking because, the thing about Moratti, as we all know, was that he used to keep buying the best forwards, even though, our midfield and sometimes the defense used to suffer a little bit. But strikers, oh my God, we used to have the best strikers in the world. I mean, whoever's the best striker in the world, Inter had to get him. So striker-wise, during those days, I mean, there was a time, if I remember correctly, we had Ronaldo, Zamorano, Vieri, Baggio, Ricoba as our 5 strikers. So you can't beat that. Let me just qualify this from a more recent perspective, because it will be unfair to compare those guys with Lautaro. But I do rate Lautaro over Icardi, for example. I prefer Lautaro because he's better for the team, even though scoring-wise, Icardi might score a few more goals. But for Icardi, the system had to play for him, whereas Lautaro actually plays with and for the system. And I think that's a very big difference. Same way is why I rate Samuel Eto'o so highly, because, again, he used to fit into the system. So my rating would be Lautaro over Ibrahimovic as well, who I think is a far better player. But again, the team had to play for him rather than the other way around. And that usually ends up with, if Ibra has a bad day, then the team has a bad day. With Lautaro, that's not the case. Lautaro can have a terrible day and Inter will still win. So for me, for Inter, Lautaro is better than Icardi, Ibra, and the only one compares to Lautaro is Eto'o and Milito. So it would be Lautaro, Eto'o, Milito, then Ibra, and finally Icardi.
Very interesting, very interesting.
And where's Lukaku in this ranking?
Come on.
Sorry, who's Lukaku? I mean, I don't get your question.
Speaking of Lukaku, imagine being a Napoli fan this instant. You've got your coach trying to sell one of the most valuable forwards in the world in Osimhen to bring in Lukaku of all people. I know that if it was me, I'd be fuming, even though you got Conte.
Hey, but to be fair, I mean, Lukaku has always been a Napoli fan since childhood.
Boyhood club. The one thing I wanted to get your thoughts on, Gautam, is I remember early on in the Suning ownership era, when Mancini was first here, you were highly critical of Suning when they irresponsibly bought João Mario, Barbosa, aka Gabigol, You were not impressed with their ownership group whatsoever. So fast forward now, 8 years goes by, their ownership concludes. What is your assessment of their jobs as owners, and were you happy, sad? How do you feel when Oaktree became owners, replacing them?
There are a lot of mixed feelings. I mean, regarding Suning's ownership, initially they were terrible at football. They clearly did not understand football. They got that, money hungry fraud agent Kia running our transfer mercato because he helped them buy the club and ended up buying players like Barbosa and Joao Mario. I mean, against the wishes of the coach, which is the big problem that I have. I mean, one of the biggest things which I think was stopping Mancini from doing well at Inter was because there was no funds on the Tohir. And finally, we have funds, and you're not backing the coach, even sacking the coach 2 days before the season starts, or letting him go because you're not buying the players for him. So, they started really, really badly. But I think over the years, they learned a little bit about how to run the football club. They hired the right football people to run it, and they did not interfere much with them. And I think that's the best thing they've done. Our best signing of the last 20 years has been Beppe Marotta. The moment they brought him in, and we've gone from strength to strength from there. And the best thing that I liked about Suning, even though they, had financial issues for, reasons we all know, they still backed Morata and let him run the club. Even when we didn't have money, Morata could figure out ways to get free transfers to get the right people. And Morata, is a very clever football manager, overall administrator, in the sense that he looks at who fits this team the best, and he creates a team. He's one of the guys who looks at the overall team, including the coach, and decides what's the best for the club. So he's really good at doing it, and if you leave him to run the club, he will always do a great job. And now when Suning went away, and now we have Oaktree, I still have, I mean, it's good in some ways and really bad in some ways. It's good in the way that I think Oaktree will be far more motivated to find a good buyer for Inter. So that's the good part. The bad part for me is that Oaktree, I think, are exactly the same as Suning, except they have less emotional attachment to the club. In the sense that they will not spend big in transfers. That's not what they do. I think they will. I mean, I'm speculating here, but my guess is what they will do is focus on reducing the cost structure, reducing the wage bill, which means there'll be more constraints on the way Morata operates, in the sense that I don't think we will do deals like Yana Lalu, which have been brilliant for us. Hakan has been one of the best buys in the last 4 or 5 years. I don't think we'll do deals like that. In fact, I think if we had not already signed contracts with Taremi and Zielinski, Oaktree wouldn't have approved those deals. I think we'll be looking at more as the lower wage transfers, which, especially when you don't have a transfer budget, which puts too many constraints on the management of the club to keep the club competitive. I hope I'm proved wrong on this, but I have a bad feeling about the quality of people we might get in from now on. So for me, the best thing that can happen for Inter is that Oaktree finds a new buyer as soon as possible.
Speaking of Oaktree, I was joking around with these boys earlier in the week, saying that it's kind of comical that we lined up Hermoso, who I think the Calcio example you made was a great one. I think it's really fitting here. Maybe Hermoso is not the same quality as Calcio, but he comes in at a similar age, 29. He's a player of repute, having been a valuable team member for a title-winning, title-challenging Atletico Madrid side. Lots of Champions League experience and all that kind of stuff. Reasonable 3-year contract, 5 million, definitely on the higher end, but still obviously a free transfer. And there was no ludicrous agent commission that was reported or anything like this. So it seemed like a no-brainer to me. And then that was apparently rejected in favor of a more younger prospect. So we said, okay, how about Cabal? And then that was rejected for because 12 million was too expensive or something along these lines. So how are your thoughts on Oaktree's current involvement on these recent centre-back deals?
No, absolutely. I think you got that spot on, which is exactly my worry about Oaktree. Hermoso is exactly the deal we would have done under Suning. It was a no-brainer for where we are, where we don't have money to spend on quality transfers. So we look to get free deals of quality players with quality experience, even though their wages are on the higher side. Overall annual cost or cost over contract of the player is not that high. It would be a perfect deal for Marotta, but again with Oaktree, like I said, these kind of deals might stop. And I have no problems if these kind of deals stop, as long as then you are spending money to get quality young talent. But clearly, there's no money to spend on quality young talent either. So if you're looking for cheap deals and young players, you end up with the banter era. You remember the banter era, right? I mean, those are exactly the players we went for under Toher and during the years when Moratti didn't have funds. We went for players who were cheap and young, and that doesn't work. And I don't think that works to Marotta's strengths as well as in football management. I think he needs to have more freedom. If you don't have a budget, he needs to have more freedom to choose the kind of players that or the kind of deals that he thinks fit well with the club from a sporting sense. So yeah, the less emotional attachment with Inter that Oaktree have compared to Suning, this is exactly what I was talking about. That I don't think they care as much whether we win the Scudetto. I think they care that we probably reach the top four and get the financial benefit from the Champions League. Sure, but I don't think they really care about silverware like Suning used to. And that really worries me. And the kind of transfer, again, the transfer market, the way we are operating right now, it's so far confirming this fear that we'll be looking for, we are not looking for excellence anymore or winning silverware anymore. So it's my only hope here is that, I have a lot of trust in Beppe, and maybe he will pull something off. Maybe he will fight the right fight with Oaktree and convince them to get the players. And I think that's really the only hope. I mean, you take Beppe out of Inter right now, and I lose all hope.
Do you think his replacement, or do you think Auxilio could be an acceptable replacement? Do you think Auxilio has been kind of groomed to be his successor?
Yeah, I think you could say that. I think Auxilio is a great football man. I mean, I think he's a great transfer market guy. But there's a difference between a transfer market guy and a director of sport. And I know CEO is now doing that position, but he still has Beppe to report to, who can manage him and focus him on the right direction. And I think a good example of this is looking at Beppe's previous job at Juventus and the way things were going. And Beppe looked like a great director of sport. Paratici looked like a football transfer genius. And he was. I think Paratici was very good in identifying the right talents. But what I think Paratici missed once Beppe left was he would still get really good players, but they didn't fit into the team. And he kept getting newer players, both at Juventus and we saw the same thing at Spurs. He got talented players in, but they just did not fit in the overall picture in the team. And the team never really got better. And I think that's the difference between Auxilio and Beppe as well, where what Beppe gets into the management and into managing the sporting side is the way he builds a team and the way every small player that we get. I mean, for example, when we got Darmian, that's a perfect example of getting the right piece, even though the piece may not be great, but it overall makes the team so much better. That's what Beppe does. And I think I'm yet to see that in Australia. I mean, maybe he's got it now. Maybe with the training that he has under Beppe, he's figured that out. But Paratici was so long under Beppe, and he still didn't figure it out. So I don't know. I mean, that remains to be seen whether Auxilio can take over from Marotta. But right now, the only thing that is giving me confidence about Inter is our president.
Do you worry that naming him president will take time away from his other duties, which are, what he's known for? He's not known for being a president. He's known for being a sporting director, a CEO, essentially. So, a CEO at Inter as well. So, any concerns on that front? Being a some have called me cynical in the past, but given my cynicism, I worry if naming him president was essentially just a PR move to kind of, give him a reward as far as the optics go. But in reality, the reward is not really benefiting anyone if they're just going to cock-block his signings like Hermoso and Cabal.
No, I mean, I've been accused of cynicism in the past as well. That doesn't faze me, and I completely hear you. It's a worry for me as well. And yes, it is an optical move. It's a way to reward a person who's done very, very well, and that's not bad. Essentially, it does. I do fear that this, his expanded role might dilute some of the work that he was doing before. On the other hand, it has some positives as well, which are like, as a president, he will be able to influence Oaktree a little bit more than if someone else had been president. Like, for example, the only other option would have been making Zanetti president, who would have been largely a figurehead. I don't think, I think Bepe is probably a much more influential person when it comes to convincing people to buy into his sporting project, because he has the credibility behind him. So it might not be a bad thing if he manages to steer Oaktree towards the right direction. But yes, there is a fear that his expanded role might dilute his attention towards what he's really, really good at, which is managing the sporting side of the club.
So the big thing I want to talk about today is all the rumors at Juventus right now, which is they're pushing several players out of their squad. There's a long list of names who they've basically told, find a new club. You don't belong here anymore. You're not part of our project. And none of the players have really been linked to Inter with the exception of one, and that is Federico Chiesa. So Chiesa, his contract is up next year. The thought is he'd be available for a relatively cheap fee, under 20 million. Apparently his agent was shopping him around England, and there wasn't any interest from Premier League clubs. So this is a market opportunity a lot of Inter fans are interested in. I want to get everyone here's thoughts on whether or not you would pursue Chiesa, especially given the current financial situation, and is that something you'd want now versus waiting for a free transfer next summer? So Miko, maybe starting with you, what are your thoughts on Chiesa as a player right now, given some people are concerned he's just not the same player anymore?
Yeah, I remember we talked about this a few episodes ago, and I don't even remember what I said back then, but I thought about this, and I'm not just sure how good of a fit he is to Inter. I would definitely not sign him now, but maybe next summer if he's still free, which I think is probably not going to be the case. But if he was free, I could maybe try to get him, but even then the problem would probably be the salary demand, which would be too high given what kind of a player and the role he would be getting at Inter would be. I think it would be a bit too limited in a sense that to me he doesn't fit to Inzaghi's system in any position like perfectly. To me, he's like a winger in a 4-3 system or something like that. He's not this kind of a striker, even a support striker we use, who needs to be able to play like his back against the goal and so on. I think he needs space, and there's space on the wings, and our wingers are then like a wing back, so they have responsibilities on the defensive side as well. I don't know how good Chiesa would be as a wing back, but I would take the shot if the salary was reasonable, but I doubt it would be if he if he was a free agent. But definitely no for this summer's transfer. Although on the other hand, it would be almost hilarious to see how it would go, or like a. It would be more fun to see uh, if he left Juve for free for Inter next summer, but also this summer it would be fun if we could like buy him for really cheap. But yeah, I wouldn't do that at all this summer.
All right, let the record show that Miko has total faith in Arnautovic and Correa. Jay, what say you?
I think there are some times where there's perfectly good reasons to not do something, and Miko mentioned some of them. He does not have a natural fit in our system. I mean, hypothetically, you could play him as a right wing back. He could be a bit more advanced. Thuram could drop back a little bit, and you might have like a more traditional 4-3-3 kind of thing going on, and it'd be an interesting option during the games. But do you really need to go out of your way to facilitate that, considering how good our regular system has been? On top of that, as Miko mentioned, he's on 5 million net wages. I can't imagine many players moving in the prime of their careers. He's 26, and essentially moving to a different club for the same wage. So you have to assume he's going to get a pay rise should he join us. And then that's not even mentioning his injury history and the question of, is he even as good as he used to be? Is he still, the Chiesa that was pre-ACL? So there's, as mentioned, a whole list of reasons why you wouldn't do the transfer. Having said that, I think occasionally you just need to say fuck it and do it. And for whatever reason, for me, this is one of those transfers. I feel like given the potential adverse effects of the Oaktree ownership moving forward, given Chiesa's age, his still significant ability, especially in Serie, and given our kind of soft project to slowly be more influential in the Italian national team as well, I think you have to sign him. And having said that, though, just going back to what we were saying about Oaktree, I can totally see this being another Hermoso deal where it makes a lot of sense for us, given how often do we get the chance to sign like a Juventus star player for, on the cheap in his prime age. How often do we get that chance? It doesn't happen often. So I would do it. But like I said, I can totally see this going down the way of Hermoso, where Oaktree, I don't want to sign him because he's already 26 and his wage demands are too high and whatnot. How about yourself, Andrew?
The reason I'm interested in Chiesa has more to do with just the skill sets. He's unlike a lot of players in our squad, and I understand it's not maybe a one-for-one formational fit, but it's not like he's never played in a three at the back system before. He was playing in one back at Fiorentina even. Of course, both Spalletti for some reason with his national team, and that used it in one match, and then you had Allegri constantly used this last year. So I understand it's not a natural fit for him, but it's not like this is a foreign concept. And he's so unique compared to other players in terms of just, he is tricky. He's a great dribbler. He has a lot of attributes we don't have. My concern, and the concern I hear, which is valid, is okay, he hasn't been the same player post-injury. And if you look at raw stats like goal scoring and assists, like you can't argue that. I mean, he hasn't been the same player, but he passes the eye test for me. When I watch him, I just see a level of class that not all players have.
Agreed.
He has technical ability that I believe in, that I believe has staying power. So I'd be willing to take a shot on him, especially because I just don't have faith in the other striking options coming off our bench. So I'm in favor of it. I don't know if Oaktree would be in favor of it because, like Miko said, there are wage concerns and just we don't know if Oaktree is willing to spend money on players who are 26 years old, as silly as that sounds.
So you would see him as a support striker or like a striker and not a wing back?
Yeah, the way I'm envisioning, if we sign Chiesa, I would like to see basically Taremi and Lautaro alternate as like the number 9, the traditional striker, and then Chiesa and Thuram could alternate as the supporting striker who does a lot of the running, off-ball movements. That's my ideal scenario instead of rolling with Arnautovic.
Okay, I have a slightly differing view on this. I don't see Chiesa as one of the strikers. I think that's one of the reasons why he has looked off form of late at Juventus when they tried to use him as a two striker system with Vlahovic. I don't think that works. I think he just does not have the end product to be a striker. But however, I mean, going back to like what Jay said at Fiorentina, he used to play as a wing back, as a right wing back, and he used to be brilliant at that. And for a right wing back, he has a quality end product. So I think for me, this transfer completely depends on whether Chiesa is ready to go back to become a right wing back, which he wasn't. Just before he got transferred to Juventus, he rejected Inter because he didn't want to be a right wing back under Conte, who really wanted him at Inter. I think if he's okay with going back to that system, that's the only fit I see for Chiesa at Inter. I mean, having Chiesa play instead of Dumfries, I think we can all agree from the class that Chiesa has that's a improvement in the squad. So if that is the case that we are signing him as a right wing back, then I'm all for it. I think he has the class. I think he will rediscover his form in the Inzaghi system in that position. But as a striker, I just don't see him scoring or assisting enough. I just don't see him having the physical presence to play an Inzaghi system. So yeah, that's basically what I feel about this.
I get that point. I do. Let me caveat this by saying I really don't know what Chiesa would want from us from a wage standpoint. But when I look at how little production we got out of Arnautovic this past season, I think he scored 6 goals in the league, and 2 of them were meaningless goals at the end of the season. I'm asking myself, if we're trying to improve this squad around the edges, like can Chiesa be an upgrade over that Arnautovic's production at a relatively low cost? And I think he can get us there. And maybe you're right, Gautam. Maybe right wing back makes more sense because, let's be honest, we have a glaring hole at right wing back. Even if we renew Dumfries, we don't really have anyone else I trust playing that position. Darmian is more of a center back at this point in his career, in my opinion. So maybe we alternate him at both positions. Maybe, I don't know. I just feel like if you're down a goal late, this is a great player to have coming off the bench, and I'd feel a lot more excited bringing him on the pitch than Arnautovic, regardless of the situation.
Buchanan comeback about to go crazy.
Buchanan's a left wing back, Jay.
You forgot about the menace from Brampton. Just quickly, for me, Chiesa is the perfect example of strengthening the quality of your talent pool. It's like when I don't know, if you have like an alcoholic beverage and then you dilute it with Coca-Cola or something, or soda water or whatever, the drink gets weaker. But if you add more vodka or something, obviously the drink gets stronger. And too many of our substitutes have been watering down the amount of quality in the squad. And it makes sense. You can't, we can't afford upgrades from Lautaro and Thuram. Realistically, we're not going to get, like Valverde to improve the quality of our midfield, right? But Taremi, or rather last season, Arnautovic, I felt Sanchez, these guys were just such a huge drop off from our starting players that it's a miracle that we didn't suffer from the lack of quality that they brought, thanks to Lautaro and Thuram being relatively injury free the entire season. Chiesa, on the other hand, does improve the overall quality of the squad. Like I said, he's not going to distill the quality down to this watered down level, which is what happens when you buy the likes of Sanchez or finished players. So that's, in my opinion, the biggest reason to do it. But I do think it's an interesting argument, the whole, wing forward or second support striker versus wing back kind of thing. I don't see why he couldn't play across both positions. I feel like he could fill in a lot of different roles. Gautam.
No, absolutely, Jay. I mean, I completely agree with you. I mean, what I'm saying is when you buy a player with those kind of wages and of that quality, he's a starting player. And right now in our attack, I don't think he starts over either Lautaro or Thuram, but he is a starting player as a right wing back. I mean, he will be better than anybody we have. Uh, he does, but what you're saying is right. He does give us options. He can be a fifth striker when need be. He can also give us a Inzaghi an option to play 3-4-3 when required. So play with three strikers up front if we are chasing a goal near the end. So he gives us a lot of options. However, I see him I mean, if you get someone like Chiesa, he's not going to come for a bench role. You're looking at him, and Oaktree will not spend that kind of money on wages for a bench role. You're looking for a starting role, and the only place I see him starting at Inter is right wing back, which is also instantly the only place where he's really, really looked good when he was younger at Fiorentina.
But also we are about to extend our starting right wing back in Dumfries, like in any days, I think. So it's a bit confusing situation in that sense. That's why I just don't see it happening, at least in this summer, because of all the costs it would add to our budget.
It is an interesting saga to just follow. As you look at the league, this is one of my favorite drama points because you have Napoli with rumors that Conte's demanding certain positions. It doesn't sound like Chiesa is maybe in the plans. Milan, this is definitely not a player who fits their profile of what they go for, especially because they have the American Messi already at right wing. So as you start going through the options of where could Chiesa go, especially on the heels of these reports that no one in England wants him, it feels like a very narrow list. My guess is he ultimately ends up at Roma. I think there's a good matchup there in terms of system fits, in terms of what De Rossi is trying to do, combined with their actual need to get a player like this. I honestly, though, can't think of many other options for them unless like returning to Fiorentina is a possibility on lower wages.
I can see him going to Napoli. I think Conte is a big fan of him, as he was when he was at Inter. And I see him play a right wing back role at Napoli because I think Di Lorenzo will play as a RCB. So yeah, I do see Napoli as his most likely destination in Serie A, followed by perhaps Inter. The reason why I'm not counting Roma on this is because there are recent reports, and I don't know how true they are, which say that Roma are not looking for attacking player anymore after getting Sule.
Yeah. I think there was this Giuntoli tried to push Chiesa to Roma before Sule kind of, I don't know, did he like force the move to Roma, but he didn't want to move to Leicester, so they sold him to Roma for a good money. So that kind of blocked the Chiesa sale then. So I also don't see that happening anymore because there would be then two competing players for the right side in Chiesa and Sule. And they have these kind of attacking midfielders slash wingers in Dybala and Sule and what is this Baldanzi guy. So I just don't see Chiesa going to Roma anymore.
So, which club, Miko? Are you Team Napoli? What do you think where do you think he ends up?
yeah, maybe I saw some rumor that they would try to swap Chiesa to Raspadori, but I don't know. Maybe Raspadori would fit better to Motta's Juve. I don't know. It's not easy situation for Giuntoli, especially this whole thing when they have like over 5 players who are so-called out of the project and they are not called to the preseason matches and they are like players with like a real salaries and so on. So it's from the outside, from Inter's perspective, it's almost like fun to look at that disaster or hopefully disaster.
Speaking of Motta, I wanted to ask Gautam, given all you've seen over the years, how do you think this Motta experiment is going to go at Juventus? And most importantly, how are you going to cope with the threat that is Fonseca's Milan?
Regarding Motta, I think he's a really talented manager, as we saw at Bologna. He clearly believes in a system, and he tries to build to that system, which is what appears to be what he's doing at Juventus. However, it's he's really pretty much building a completely new team with a new system, and that kind of thing takes time. He's got some really good players. I think Luis is a while expensive buy on paper. He is a brilliant buy for them. I think he is exactly what they needed. And Thuram is not too bad either. But Luis, I think, has been their most impressive buy. And they are looking for some really good players as well. I mean, we know they're looking at Nico Gonzalez and Hoopminers and a few others.
Can I just say really quickly, I'm still salty at the outrageous deal they got for Luis. They managed to offload two completely mediocre youth players to bring down his cost massively. And I can't remember, what was he playing? Was it Newcastle? No. It was Aston Villa that he was at, West Ham?
Yes, Aston Villa.
I can never tell the difference between Aston Villa and West Ham, but they sent, who was it? Barrenechea and Illing Jr. It's ridiculous. And then of course they had to buy Alicia Lehman as well, but
no, I think it's Juventus will always do Juventus, even though they got wrapped for it pretty badly, or doing these kind of shady deals. They still immediately went and did a Juventus. These are very, very shady deals, but that's the way football works, I guess. I don't know why Aston Villa did this deal. I mean, a lot of them seem to think that Illing Jr. and Chia are good players or good young players to have, but
that's what I'm saying. They got fleeced. They got absolutely fleeced. It's like imagine we managed to sign a big player from, I don't know, some English club by sending them like Satriano and Pinamonti or something. You know what I mean? Like maybe Illing Jr.
It's a funny thing that on Twitter, but it's a funny thing on Twitter. There are a lot of Aston Villa fans who are coming on and telling me that you have no idea how good these two young players are. And I was like, yeah, perhaps. It is possible. I don't know. Because
that's
I hardly see
that's
them play.
copium right there.
I think the value of Illing Jr. is because he's from Chelsea Academy. So I think maybe the EPL see the value in these kind of players there. But yeah, I think Villa sold Luis because, well, he wanted to go and they needed this kind of, they need their own Plus Valenza. I think he was valued like 51 million or something in that deal. So
yeah,
I think that was the reason why they sold him.
Okay. No, coming back to the question, I think the team that Motta is building at Juventus, I have no doubt that he'll end up building a very good team. It's just that how long does it take him to start performing? That's the only question I have. So hopefully this season they are not. They take their time and they're not ready to challenge for the Scudetto. That's my hope. Let's see how the season goes. I don't consider Milan as a serious threat to the title. I must confess I don't know Fonseca very well apart from his. I think Spell Roma, was it? So I don't know him very well, but I don't know what kind of squad he's building. I mean, it seems very random, but that's been Milan for the last 5 years. They've been buying players like that for a long time now. I see the threat really coming for Inter, the threat really coming from Napoli. We know how quickly Conte hits the ground running with his teams. He has a very good core of a team on which he can build at Napoli. They did win the Scudetto a couple of years ago, so a lot of those players are the same players. They know how to win. So that's where I see the real challenge coming from. And I actually kind of get why he wants to get Lukaku and sell Osimhen, one of the best strikers in the league. I get it. I think Lukaku works perfectly in a Conte system, as we have seen before. So even if they do get Lukaku, I still see them as our biggest threat this season. Just to add on that, I think Buongiorno was the one who got away. If you asked me which defender I wanted the most this season for Inter, it was him, and I think he's a great buy for Napoli.
That raises an interesting question. Just quickly, what do you think about the centre back situation at Inter? Obviously, we are in the market for a left-footed centre back, and it seems like the profiles we're linked to, Hermoso, Cabal, we talked about them previously, more of like a backup option for Bastoni more than anything else. So, however, at least us on this esteemed podcast seem to agree that the central centre-back position is the one that needs the most attention, given Acerbi's age. He just came off surgery. De Vrij is, I don't know. I honestly don't know what to think about De Vrij. He was okay last season, better than expected. And then he goes out and gets, Ollie Watkins again, or he gets Giroud every now and again in big moments. So what do you think?
I completely agree with that. I think I did an assessment of Inter after the end of last season, and I also identified the center, the CCB position as the key for the big budget buy. And for me, Buongiorno was the perfect player for that. And the reason for that, I think, I'm not sure why we are looking for a left-sided centre back, because I think Bastoni is mostly fit. He can he's young. He can pretty much play all the games. Plus, if I'm not mistaken, Bisek is pretty decent at that position as well, and so is Carlos Augusto. So we have some backups in the squad who can play that. And as far as right centre back is concerned, Pavard and Darmian cover that extremely well. So Bisek can play either right or left. So I think we have those positions reasonably covered with people of decent ages. Like you said, the main position where we have two aging players, De Vrij and Acerbi, is the CCB role, and for me, I think that's the defending position where I would spend most money and get the right player for a long-term future. So yeah, I completely agree with that assessment.
Am I the only one who's like losing hope that we're going to make any further big moves in the transfer market? It just seems like, we got Zielinski and Taremi really early, and it's like since then it's just been like, other than one brief flutter of activity around Hermoso and Cabal and all that, it's just been like, but pretty much nothing. And then the Chiesa news kind of picked up across the last, really kind of ramped up in the last 24 hours. But other than that, it's been radio silence for the most part.
It's interesting to me because we've made some decent, I don't want to exaggerate, but we've made player sales, right? Agume is one. We're going to be offloading Correa, via golden handshake here, which should save on some wages. Like we've had some, I think probably 10 to 12 million in sales of these smaller players. It looks like Satriano's on his way out, might be getting a few million there. So I don't know what the budget is, but if we wanted to sign a player, it seems like we should have some financial flexibility to do so. I would assume when we were negotiating for Cabal, for example, like we were approved for those 10 million to 12 million that we were going to need. So why are we waiting? It's the question, right? I mean, the season starts in 2 weeks. The Mercato closes in a month. We have some money. We have some areas of the squad that could use that just a little bit of tweaking to push us over the top. I'm just a little confused why we're not linked to any names. There's really, aside from Chiesa, there just aren't any, Romano type rumors we can discuss that are like substantive.
So, I suspect what Inter's plan for this summer pretty much was to get Hermoso as our defender, and then target Goodmanson. I still think if we are going to sign a big player, and I think big is a relative term here, but if you're going to sign a big player, it's going to be Goodmanson for the attacking role. However, we are not going to sign him until we get rid of Arnautovic and Correa. And I think that's holding that move back. Personally, I think we do have the budget for it, whether it's through some swap deals or from the the leeway we have already created in our wage structure by letting all those players like Sanchez and Cuadrado and Sensi and Klaassen and all of them go, and selling all those Primavera or plus Valenza players, as we call them, from Agueme, Moretti, Carboni, Orisitano, Van Hutsen. I think we got rid of quite a lot of them, and there are a few more that we are looking at getting rid of. So I think there will be space to make one or two buys. And if we are able to get rid of Korea and Arnautovic quickly, I think we will go for Gudmundsson, though there is a challenge there from Fiorentina if they're able to get rid of, if they're able to sell Nico Gonzalez before us, before we can get rid of Arnautovic, they might get that player.
Don't you feel like we're running out of time as well?
Yes.
The season starts very soon.
I think we are running out of time because Arnautovic does not want to leave and nobody wants Korea. So, it's our age-old problem. Some players don't want to go, and some players nobody wants. This is a tough situation, and if we are not able to get rid of these players, I don't think we'll make that move. We will just buy a left centre back, and that will be it.
Why is it that we don't do the whole Juventus thing where Motta openly said during a press conference these players need to find new clubs and that they were not, called up for the preseason tour or whatever it is? Why are we still, despite losing, nice Uncle Marotta many years ago, we're still kind of operating in the same way where we don't have that cold-hearted kind of just cutting ties with players? Look, you're out of the squad, find yourself a new team or you're going to be rotting in the stands. Why do we not do that? And should we do that?
No, I don't think we should do that. I think we're doing the right approach because Juventus' situation is not the same as ours. Their team spirit is one of the worst in the league. Their team was is now completely being broken and rebuilt. So they can do that. And I think it's a good tactic from their point of view. However, at Inter, the main thing that is really working is the team spirit is fantastic. And you don't want to put that kind of pressure on players who just won you a Scudetto. With a great team spirit to start, putting them on cold storage and publicly making statements against them.
That's a good point.
At Inter, I think we are doing it the right way. I think for our situation.
It is interesting though, because look at a player like Correa, right? He wasn't here last season. He spent the season on loan at Marseille. Probably had the worst season of his career. It's abundantly clear to everyone that this guy is not part of our future plans, but we're playing him as our starting striker in preseason fixtures due to lack of availability of other players, combined with the fact we just can't find a resolution for this guy. And I don't know, maybe it's a different situation because we know Correa, no one wants him, as opposed to Chiesa, where conceivably other, or even McKennie, where you'd imagine other clubs will take those players eventually. But it is an interesting contrast how we're holding on. Maybe a more apt example would be an Arnautovic, who I think everyone agrees is probably not cut out for this level. He's not good enough relative to the rest of the squad. But rather than, I'm sure if some club came to us and offered us $5 million for Arnautovic, we would accept it in a heartbeat. But rather by putting that onus on him to find a club, the way Juve are with Chiesa, we're choosing to just continue forward with him. And I think to your point, it's because we have a good locker room, a good culture, and everyone wants to be here.
And I think adding to Gautam's point that if we did that with Arnautovic and if he ended up staying, that would hurt his situation and the team spirit in general. And I think we can't afford to shut him out if he ends up staying. But because opposed to you, with Juve can shut down players and then just end up buying maybe new ones and shut down these guys. Okay, they're not part of the project. They can even after the transfer window, I think they can do that with some players, but I don't think we can afford to do this kind of thing. Of course, the Korea is an exception because I think we won't be saving a lot of money if we buy him out. Maybe a bit in the golden handshake. It won't be the full salary, but there's gonna be maybe few millions we're gonna save there. That's really unfortunate, but that's probably the case, like you guys discussed. But yeah, I think the team spirit point is spot on here, that we don't want to break that, because Arnautovic was part of the team and he might still stay. I want to add to Gudmundsson. I think the latest reports say that he's pretty close to Fiorentina now, and we might be like losing that transfer. He's gonna, or not gonna wait us with the wait us any longer, because we need to ditch Arnautovic before we can go there. So
No,
that's
I don't really blame him. I think if I was him, I would do the
yeah,
same, because
yeah,
I
no way,
don't
no.
see a way we can sell both Arnautovic and Correa before and then buy him in this transfer window. That said, you know what? I mean, this is this is going to be a little bit controversial, but in my opinion, coming back to this Correa versus Arnautovic debate, in my opinion, Arnautovic is still not that bad a fourth striker option for us. So it's not a disaster. He's not. I agree that he's not good enough at Inter's level. That said, as a fourth striker, he doesn't complain. He works hard, and he has the characteristics to be a good fit. So when needed, he could play a useful role. And I suspect that his second season is going to be better than the first. He got little injury issues in the first season, which hampered it. So it's not something which I think would be a complete disaster if we end up with Arnautovic as the fourth striker behind Taremi and Thuram and Martinez. So yeah, that's maybe a little controversial, but that's what I feel.
I know Miko agrees with you. So before Miko chimes in and tells you how right you are, I will just say that I think you can win another Scudetto with Arnautovic as your fourth striker. But if you want to go further in the Champions League, I think last year showed Arnautovic's ideal role on this team, in my opinion, is like a fifth striker who, if you're really trailing late, you bring him in. You aren't expecting him to make runs. He can kind of stand near the box. I just don't think he gets injured every season, not just with us, but with Bologna as well. He doesn't have the fitness to play in Inzaghi's system over the course of a season. So for me, like, of course he's better than Correa, and we've proven you can win a Scudetto with him. But like, if you just want to increase the quality of the squad enough to compete for Champions League titles, I don't think you can be bringing Arnautovic off the bench in like critical fixtures against PSG or City or whatever.
Andrew, we are spending pennies. We are counting our pennies. There is no way we are competing for the Champions League or anywhere close to it. I mean, let's be honest here. Sorry, I'm going to bring a cynical side to it, but we were very lucky in that CL run. Our team spirit and everything coming together got us there. But in terms of the kind of players we have and the kind of money we are spending, we should be nowhere close to the later stages of the Champions League. I mean, let's be very honest here. I mean, most seasons we are not going to get there. If we want to get close to the Champions League, and I completely am agreeing with you here, then we need to upgrade Arnautovic. We need to upgrade at least 10 players in our team if we really want to target the Champions League. And we just do not have the finances for that.
But
so sorry.
I wanna quickly oppose on that. We remember that we were in the final 2 seasons ago, and last season Dortmund was in the final. So it's like you can buy yourself to be successful in that competition, but you can also you can do it without money as well, because it's always about it's
I completely agree.
Yeah, it's a little things that decide those matches in the end. So, but I
completely agree. I'm just saying expectation versus possibility. I think it's of course possible. I mean, anything is possible in football, and with a good team spirit and a good formation and the way everybody is working, even a Darmian can be a great player for us. So I agree with that. But if you can't have the expectation of winning the Champions League with this level of investment. You can have the hope, and we always have hope. I mean, I've had hope for 35 years. Most years it's been, a hope being shattered. But you can always have hope, but you cannot have the expectation with this kind of investment to go very far in the Champions League. I think I would be delighted with our performance if we end up just winning the Scudetto. For me, that would be a great achievement with the level of finances that we have, or level of investment that we have, that would be a great achievement in itself. So what I'm saying is, I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying the expectation uh, that we should be targeting the later stages or winning the Champions League. I mean, it's unrealistic.
Yeah, I agree on that. And as for Arnautovic, I think I would say that him as a fourth striker might be an issue, in a sense that if can he keep the focus and the motivation in a situation when he might be playing even less than last season? If Taremi keeps playing more, he's taking the minutes which last season went to Arnautovic. I think Arnautovic was preferred more than Sanchez when Arnautovic was fit. So I think now those minutes will go to Taremi. But let's see. Let's hope.
Don't have to worry about Taremi getting minutes. He's already injured.
The one thing I wanted to point out, I just looked. Arnautovic in the season before Inter, he only played in 21 games at Bologna. So he doesn't have a track record of being available. And if you're going to the season with Lautaro, Thuram, Taremi, Arnautovic, it just seems like we're going to have a situation like last season where we're talking about Mkhitaryan false nine, because we just play so many matches. Like, these guys can't stay fit long enough. I'm concerned heading into the season with him as our fourth striker.
Jay, now that Taremi is injured and Arnautovic was terrible in his preseason debut, is the season over already?
Season's been over for a long time, Miko. Haven't you seen what Milan's been cooking? The Fonseca era is here. They're beating Real Madrid and Man City in preseason friendlies. It's a sign of things to come.
They've already won the preseason at San Siro, who can go far in the Champions League, and according to Bluenine, it's not Inter.
Yeah, it's come on. No, I mean, preseason Scudetto is I don't even watch preseason games. I don't think they matter at all. They're just training games. Milan beating City, I mean, it's, we can make, whatever we want of that, but I wouldn't put much, credit to it. I think Milan, let's see. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, and maybe Milan do well, but I just don't see it.
Mini aside here, I was scrolling through match scores yesterday, just seeing what was going on around Europe, looking at preseason friendlies and all that. I think Chelsea and City played each other pretty close to my house. I wanted to check the score to that. But a few European Super Cups happened yesterday. I believe the Portuguese one took place, and then the Turkish one. I don't know if you guys saw the Turkish one, but Immobile and company just put an absolute bullets in Icardi and company with a 5-0 win. And it just kind of upset me that these major European leagues are having their Super Cups now. Meanwhile, we're going to be, having this dog and pony show in January. We fly 6 teams to Saudi Arabia to have the Super Cup. Does anyone miss the old format of next week would be kicking off this thing against, I can't even remember who won the Copa last year. Was it Atalanta? I can't even remember. Juve?
I think it was Juve.
Yeah, Juve.
But yeah, I agree. The whole, I don't mind the tournament thing that much if it happened preseason, because you can kind of offset some preseason games with more meaningful Super Copa games. And I don't like the fact that we're flying. Or actually, let me say that again. I am skeptical about the whole Saudi Arabia thing, because I don't believe we're getting paid that much anyway. I wouldn't be that against, using the Super Copa, which is a meaningless tournament in the scheme of things. As a marketing kind of tool for Seria, as an exhibition. I really don't mind the concept of that if we were actually getting paid well to do so. But 2 or 3 games, whatever it is, in the middle of the season, probably getting paid 45,000 per match or something pathetic is, in my opinion, not a great usage of the team's time and energy.
I completely agree. I think the energy, especially. I mean, for me, the Serie A and Champions League are the 2 main competitions, and every other competition, if you can reduce the games, it's great. And at least the game should not interfere with the preparation and the energy for these two competitions. So I hate this new format of January competition. I I agree with Miko. I preferred the preseason one game as a warm up to the season kind of thing. I think that was ideal, and most leagues are still doing that.
All right. Well, I think we should get some Jay's hot betting tips in here before we call this an episode. Jay, what do you got for us?
I don't have anything. I don't even know what games are coming up. So unfortunately, there will be no Jay's hot betting tips this week. Save your money, save up, and then let's go double or nothing next week.
Disappointing. I assumed you would have something for us because I know after last week you're all in on the Olympics. I thought you'd have a juicy Olympics bet for us.
I've not watched a second of the Olympics. I'll be completely honest. I don't even know. Where is it again? France? Or I don't think the time zones really suit me in Australia as well. So I think a coworker was like watching it on his phone during work, which pretty much says everything about, my inability to tune in. But even if I could, I got to be honest, I don't know. I don't have the mental capacity for more sports in my life. I just can't get into other sports. So yeah, like I said, save your money, pull up that money to be spent for next week, and then let's go hard next week. I'll have an absolute, balls to the wall hot betting tip for next week.
We already know it's going to be a Milan Scudetto future. You can pull up now.
Yeah, futures Milan to win Scudetto. That's exactly right.
Well, Gautam, thanks for podding with us, man. We appreciate getting to know you, getting to learn your Inter history. Like I said, really appreciate it. You can go back to the 80s with some Inter knowledge. So definitely something we're missing from the pod, and just overall appreciated your thoughts on things.
Thanks, Andrew. Thanks for having me here. It was really fun.
All right, well, that's everything this week. We'll be back next week. Irfan will still be on vacation, but don't worry, we'll make it worth your while. Catch you guys all then.
All right, thanks, guys. See you later. Thanks, Gautam.
Thanks, everyone. See you later.
Thanks, Gautam. Bye.